There's this heated clash on Arise TV between Dr. Abbati and Ojyokpe over Sharia law, and many people have been reacting to it. But before I allow you guys to watch the full video, I want us to take a look at these headlines. So this headline said, the United States is taking decisive action in response to the authorities and violence against Christians in Nigeria and around the world. The state debt will restrict U.S. visas for those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, support, or carry out violations of religious freedom. This visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people for their religious beliefs. And many people have been reacting to it. And somebody here tweeted and said, visa restrictions aren't enough because most of these terrorist sponsors don't travel to the US but Turkey and UAE. Military action to wipe out the terrorists in the bushes would be better. Also, stop every aid to Nigeria. The US aid might end up sponsoring terror groups. All the current politicians in Nigeria should receive visa ban and their property seized or given out to charity. They loot public funds only to buy houses in the USA. Another person tweeted and said, seize all their properties in the USA and deport their children back to Nigeria. And another person tweeted and said, this is a welcome development. All individuals, whether in Nigeria or abroad, who are causing trouble, fueling destruction, or contributing to the killings in our country should be banned. Ban them all. They are also killing my fellow Muslims, not only your Christian brothers and sisters. If they undermine our peace and stability, they should be deprived of the privilege of ever setting foot in the United States again. And this particular tweet is coming from Bashir Ahmed. A person tweeted and said, Sheikh Gumi must be the top person on that list. Even the Saudi government rejected him. Gumi is the CEO of terrorism in Nigeria. Anyway, guys, let me allow you guys to watch this particular video from Arise TV where they talked about the banning of Sharia law. So, guys, watch this video and drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'm going to be right back.
Viewers, let's begin what's trending in the United States, where the government has announced new visa restrictions targeting Nigerians accused of undermining religious freedom following escalating violence and what Washington describes as targeted persecution of Christians in Nigeria. In a post on X, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the restriction will affect those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, support, and carry out violations of religious freedom. And I'll read Marco Rubio's post on X. He wrote, the United States is taking decisive action in response to the atrocities and violence against Christians in Nigeria and around the world. The State Department will restrict U.S. visas for those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, support, or carry out violations of religious freedom. This visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people for their religious beliefs. Well, Marco Rubio spoke with Fox News on Monday, issuing a stark warning about the threat posed by radical Islam, describing it as a clear and imminent danger to the world and broader West, and especially the United States. Let's take a look.
Radical Islam has shown that their desire is not simply to occupy one part of the world and be happy with their own little caliphate. They want to expand. It's revolutionary in its nature. It seeks to expand and control more territories and more people. And radical Islam has designs openly on the West. On the United States, on Europe, we've seen that progress there as well, and they are prepared to conduct acts of terrorism. In the case of Iran, nation-state actions, assassinations, murders, you name it, whatever it takes for them to gain their influence and ultimately their domination of different cultures and societies. That's a clear and imminent threat to the world and to the broader West, but especially to the United States, who they identify as the chief source of evil on the planet. Okay, the reason why they hate the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the leadership of the UAE, of Bahrain, is because they've allowed the United States to partner with them. That's why they hate them. They consider them infidels for it. They hate Israel. But they also hate America, and they hate anywhere in the world that we have influence. They seek to attack it, including here in the homeland.
Well, this is a clear signal that the Trump administration is taking a hardline approach to radical Islamic terrorism, marking a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy rhetoric. Well, the visa ban announcement comes a day after U.S. lawmakers convened a roundtable in Washington with religious freedom and foreign relations experts to discuss Nigeria's escalating violence on President Donald Trump's directive. Last month, House Foreign Affairs Africa Subcommittee Chairman Chris Smith introduced a resolution recommending the visa ban and asset freezes on individuals and entities responsible for severe violations of religious freedom in Nigeria, especially naming the Maeti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria and Maeti Allah Cattle Hore as erring entities. Well, MACBAN has since denied allegations of carrying out genocide against Christians and urged Congress to withdraw the recommendation. Well, this visa ban announcement is a significant escalation in U.S.-Nigeria relations and represents Washington's most direct intervention yet in Nigeria's security crisis. Dr. Abbati, I'd like your comments, but you know, we've often talked about these sanctions, and now we are seeing a clear sanction right now targeting individuals and entities that support and negotiate with terrorists as well. But also the mention of Maeti Allah in this whole conversation also is very important for you to discuss as well. So I'll tie in this story for us to discuss both. Meanwhile, the United States lawmakers have been urged to pressure the Nigerian government to abolish Sharia law in northern states where it has been adopted and disband the religious enforcement HISPA commissions, with experts warning that these laws and groups are fueling systematic anti-Christian persecution. Well, during the joint House briefing on Tuesday, Council on Foreign Relations Senior Fellow Dr. Ebenezer Obadari testified that the primary drivers of violence, Boko Haram, ISWAP, and radicalized Fulani militants exploit Sharia frameworks and HISPA officials to impose extremist ideology and operate with near total impunity. Dr. Obadari laid out a twofold strategy. First, work with the Nigerian military to neutralize Boko Haram, and second, pressure President Tinubu to make Sharia law unconstitutional in 12 northern states where it has been adopted since the year 2000 and disband the various Hizbah groups who are seeking to enforce Islamic law on all citizens regardless of their religious identity. This is another push that we are seeing, Dr. Abbati. You know, the call for the ban of Sharia law also is an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had. Your thoughts? Okay,
since President Trump named Nigeria as a country of particular concern, redesignation after the Biden administration, there have been a lot of moves in the United States in terms of addressing the issue in Nigeria. Well, let's start with what we call radical Islam. Now, radical Islam, yes, it's a very serious threat, you know, to the United States. We all remember 9/11, and it talks about basically extremist ideology that you can find either in terms of fundamentalism or in terms of the use of violent tactics to promote that particular religion. And 9/11 will seem to be a very good example of the kind of, threat that radical Islam can pose. For the United States, 9/11 was a particular, wake-up call. And the international community have been mobilized since then to fight global extremism. So it's not just of concern to the U.S., it's also for the global community. Second, now the U.S. now saying, look, U.S. will fight it. Other countries are fighting it too.
Yes.
What we're talking about is the need for cooperation, to check extremism of any sort, whether it's called radical Islam or it is called terrorism or it is called banditry. Now, to come to Nigeria, the U.S. says, Nigeria is not a country of particular concern. The announcement that they will restrict visas is inside the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212, Sub A and Sub 3C, which gives the United States, the powers to restrict visas for certain category of persons and entities. And I had made a point earlier on that, it falls within the legitimate and sovereign right of the U.S. to admit whoever it wants to admit. It's not automatic that when you apply for visa that you'll be given. Where the problem will be is, how do you identify who these religious extremists in Nigeria are? It's not as if Nigeria has a list of persons who are known as radical extremists. So that's why it's at the discretion of the consular section of the United States Embassy, issuing visa to persons. Now, the Nigerian government too does not have a list. If there is a list, and they have published it, well, I have not seen it. And then when you look at the Middle Belt area, Benue, Plateau, Southern Kaduna in the Northwest, most of the people who are involved in these things, the basis is not religion. The basis is land. It's economic power. It's about access to resources. So it's a bit complex in Nigeria. The other thing you raised is the Sharia.
Yes.
Now it was Dr. Ebenezer Obadare, he used to be one of our colleagues in those early days, who recommended that two solutions to address the problem in Nigeria. Put pressure on the Nigerian government to do a lot more. Then ban Sharia in 12 northern states and also ban the Isba units.
Yes.
Well, the thing to note is that the Sharia law is in fact in the Constitution of Nigeria. I think I said this about 2 days ago. In sections 275, 279. And its jurisdiction is civil. It's not a criminal orthodoxy, as some people are trying to define it in the United States. It means that the Sharia law can only apply to persons who have elected to be tried under the Sharia law. And we have Sharia Court of Appeal. We have in some of these states, where you have the Sharia, and in any case, it's a federal system.
Yeah.
Some states, that say, we want to adopt this kind of system of law, are allowed to do so. But that law should not apply to people who do not subscribe to it. So you cannot use Sharia law now to punish Christians.
Yes, and
I do not think that President Tinubu has the powers to unilaterally say, he will declare Sharia law unconstitutional. In fact, that would be a prescription for chaos,
all right,
for conflict.
All right.
In fact, it will worsen the situation because persons from those 12 northern states and religious leaders who since 1978 Constitutional Conference insisted on the Sharia being accommodated as a personal orthodoxy.
Right.
They will be the ones to now rise up in arms. So in trying to solve a problem in Nigeria, you create another problem.
All right. We have often seen, like you have said, that the Sharia law should not be used to persecute Christians, right? But we have seen that happen. I think we've discussed this at length. Ayo,
yes.
even recently we've seen...
Now it's inching closer.
Yes.
And the truth is that we need to also decide whether or not Nigeria is a secular state or not.
Correct.
If we say that Nigeria is a secular state, then we cannot have religion, sports whereby a particular religious law is allowed. So we need to make that decision. And I did mention at the beginning of this conversation around Christian genocide that we must have uncomfortable conversations around Sharia law in some states. I also believe that it's important to find out to what extent the Christians living in those... we've seen incidents where it crosses over. It always crosses over after a while. And that's where the challenge is. If something was instituted or called upon, if we see that it has a negative effect, we can go back to the conversation, revisit it, and actually find out if it's still working.
Except that Sharia is not a religion.
No, applies to a Sharia religious group.
The Sharia court.
The Constitution says there shall be no state religion.
Correct.
In any part. And there's no state of Nigeria where they say you must only be Muslims or you must only be Christians.
Yeah, but the point she's making is
a system of judicial administration
that applies to only a particular group.
Or whoever submits to it.
Yes.
But it's mainly the religious group.
So let me tell you why she's talking about why we're talking about this, because only recently I think we saw a man's store that was closed down in Abuja and said it was a Sharia court that repossessed his property. And we have seen some of these.
There's no Sharia in the EFCT.
Well, that was the conversation.
In the state where it was brought before.
It was brought before.
And so they are inching.
So it was in the state it was brought before.
Closer.
So exactly, because the people that were persecuting were, using the Sharia court to do that. And so, like Ayo has said, this is a situation where these laws are inching and also persecuting people that have not subscribed to it. Yes. For example, we saw saw Deborah, the killing of Deborah, who was blasphemous, and she was killed. She was burned, but she was Christian, and they used the blasphemy law to persecute her. So, you know, these are the sort of conversations that are uncomfortable and need to be had. If we have to revisit the conversation, we should open it again on the table. And this is my thought. The Constitution is being reviewed all the time, Dr. Abbati, isn't it?
Well, we're talking about Sharia law. I'm saying it will cause a lot of problems.
Well,
I don't think President Tinubu needs to go in that direction.
Well, that's your advice. But the Nigerian people are saying that these are the conversations that need to be had. If this is a situation where Christians are being persecuted for something that they did not subscribe to, I believe it's something that should be put on the table.
Yes.
That's really all it is.
Well,
all right.
And I think that should be made very, very clear. We are working together. We're going to work together with the NSS office to ensure that states don't adopt such things, because those things compromise security. And to tell those that nobody, if you negotiate with them, they will never abide by it. It's just a moment. When they do that, they want to buy time to buy more arms, and then they were going to come. And we have seen it repeatedly. There are even localities that have done that. They still come after them. So, sir, it's a total ban on that. Total ban on illegal mining.
Well, the screening session saw moments of tension when Senator representing Niger East, Sani Musa, suggested that General Christopher Musa be allowed to take a bow and go, prompting protests from lawmakers before Senate President Godswill Akpabio intervened firmly, rejecting the suggestion, stating that Nigerians deserve to hear from General Musa at the time when security concerns remain high. He cited pressure from the United States over security concerns in Nigeria, stating that even Donald Trump is on our neck. Let's take a look.
We are not asking him questions because we don't like him. We're asking him questions because our constituents would have loved to ask him questions at a time like this. So if we come here and we do politics of bow and go, this is not a period we should say bow and go. Even Donald Trump is on our neck. We have not yet asked him what his response will be to Donald Trump, the President of America. He is not just anybody. Chief of Defense Staff, a nominee for a Minister of Defense of a country, and you stand up and say you should take a bow and go, with so many questions on the mouth of Nigerians, with over 200 Nigerian children in the bush, kidnapped and being tortured. His appointment is heralded all over Nigeria with happiness because Nigerians believe he has something to offer. Give the man an opportunity to give Nigerians hope.
Well, this is a far departure from the Senate's usual rubber stamp bow and go practice. Some people online say the practice was rejected because of international pressure. I'll take some posts on X. Before I come to you, Akan wrote, if not for Donald Trump, Akpabio would never have read the terms of his engagement as Senate President. Hope he maintains this energy for other pressing national issues. Another ex-user wrote, and hailing Akpabio, saying, distinguished sir, you have earned my respect for this singular act. The era of take a bow and go just like that as a nominee minister can no longer be accepted in this crucial time of heightening insecurity. All government appointees must be scrutinized. Finally, an ex-user wrote, politics aside, Akpabio asked some genuinely pertinent questions. It's clear that even within Nigeria's leadership circles, there is an awareness of the pressure coming from the United States and a need to respond thoughtfully. And also in the meantime, speaking about, General Musa and, the zero tolerance on negotiations with terrorists, the House of Representatives on Wednesday called on the federal government to reveal the financiers behind terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. The House resolved that the people backing kidnappings and banditry in the country should be named, sanctioned, and persecuted, while also stating that all terrorism-related persecutions should be open, expeditious, and transparent. The lawmakers also demanded that the federal government open a new special court specifically dedicated to terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping. These are all the right moves in the right direction. We've always called for these people to be named and shamed. Now the lawmakers are even calling for a special court for the persecution. Now your thoughts on Okpabio even referencing Donald Trump, that hey, Donald Trump is on our neck at this point. This international pressure, the pressure is getting worse.
It's getting worse.
Go ahead.
I'll begin with the special courts, because this is something that the Minister of Defense, who is about to be confirmed, has always advocated for as part of his measures that he felt would, would curb and help us to deal with the menace. However, the conflict now becomes the fact that under the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, there is permission for some of these procedures to be done without media and without that transparency that we seek. It is one of that's where it gets a little bit complicated because of issues around national security and implications to national stability. Having said that, I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, to yesterday's proceedings, heated proceedings, and I say thank God, I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but thank God for the leadership of Senate President Akpabio and his intervention, because if not, we wouldn't have seen that sort of rigorous screening session. And our only hope is that although the ambassadorial nominees are being screened behind closed doors, we hope that there's the same rigor happening for them as well. So on that note, I say that was an important development. However, on another note, I say, my goodness me, it breaks my heart when the fear of a white man is what makes us spring into action. It says a lot. However, this is where we are. A Caucasian across the Atlantic has issued a warning, and we, like good blacks...
A Caucasian across the Atlantic?
Yes. And we, like good blacks, are now terrified.
The United States president, the most powerful man
Listen,
in the world.
There are several presidents who have stood up to past American presidents. However, there are genuine issues. And I think this is what we should focus on, right? Is that although we can't, I don't want to kill the messenger, because I have a problem with the messenger, but it's okay. We're here now, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't the voice of the constituents, the voice of the Nigerians who are dealing with this menace day on, day out, that sprung our people into action. That's why I made reference to the gentleman across the Atlantic. However, having said that, and I'm a Trump fan, but I'm an African first. I'm an African first. I'm an African first.
Good, I like
Fantastic responses from the incoming Minister of Defense. What did he speak about? He spoke about withdrawing our military from checkpoints. He said we need these boots on the ground. Absolutely. They need to be in action, but we're wasting them because they're doing the work that civil defense should be able to do at checkpoints. He spoke about budgets. He talked about the cost of the medium-range missiles. He said 150 million naira just for one, whether it strikes the target or not. This is the kind of thing we're talking about. And he said that in the past, there's been so much interference, there has been sabotage, and I love the fact that he's a man who has lived and tasted the experience. He knows where the shoe pinches, and I hope that he will get the necessary political will, because of course we know that he sits in a cabinet of ministers. He doesn't make unilateral decisions over anything. However, his experience is going to be valuable. From an administrative side, the weight of expectation on his shoulders is high, but I hope he will prove to be up to the task, because people are asking what will he do differently now as minister that he didn't do as CDS. And we have to remind people that Minister of Defense is a much more influential post.
I'm speaking I'm speaking about that. He has to now deal with Bello Metawalle, whose topic we discussed earlier yesterday, who, I think is slightly, or not, I wouldn't say slightly, absolutely different from Musa, who say no negotiation with terrorists. Yesterday we saw Metawalle's 2020 video, I believe it was 2021 video, talking about the fact that, these not all bandits are criminals. I wonder how they...
So guys, let me take you guys on more reactions on this headline. So someone tweeted here and said, performance, try releasing the files of Nigeria's president. He has a drug trafficking related crime record in the US. You claim he's complicit in the killing, but his children still enjoy US protection. His daughter owns an expensive condo in NY with a questionable source income. You are not only unserious, you are also unfortunate. So somebody else here tweeted and said, thank you, Sec. We do have many Nigerian terrorist sympathizers, as you noted, also online, and they live in the US. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And that person tweeted and said, This is the main reason the Nigerian politicians, especially the governors and National Assembly, are now pretending to be taking the matter of religious persecutions in their country serious. And that person tweeted and said, they did not restrict visas, they expanded justification. This isn't protection, it is projection. They don't care about the prosecuted. They care about the pre-test. The empire never acts without a portal, and Medom makes the best one. They ignored Nigeria for decades, but now that leverage is needed, they weaponize concern. Visa bans are not defense of faith, they are economic news. Disguised as diplomacy. They sell you justice while installing control news. You think this is about religious freedom, but they did not say Christian values. They said compliance with state-approved belief. Who defines prosecution? The same regime that arrested pastors and silenced dissenters in its own borders. They export morality like a branded weapon, and every new policy is just a quieter drone strike. This isn't foreign aid, it is so surveillance. They pretend to defend the cross, but they crucify by proxy. This isn't a stand against evil. It's a retrotting of allegiance, and every visa denied is just another sermon from the throne. These are people's reaction to it. So somebody else tweeted and said, thank you, United States and the state debt, for this strong and courageous step, protecting innocent Christians and all people of faith. Facing persecution in Nigeria is truly commendable. Please keep up this vital work to save lives and defend religious freedom. If ever given the opportunity or privilege, I will willingly and gladly provide any accurate information or assistance I have to help identify, expose, and remove terrorists and their supporters operating in northern Nigeria. The persecution must end, and the good people of Nigeria, especially the Christian communities, under constant attack, deserve safety, justice, and peace. God bless you for standing on the side of the persecuted. Keep going. And somebody else tweeted and said, thank you, SEC, for pulling the diplomatic and economic levers to defend Christians in Nigeria. Anyway, guys, that's all we have for today. Let me know your thoughts below. And also, if you're coming across my channel for the first time, do what to hit the subscribe button, like, and share the video. So, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again in my next video.